I'm Jerry McCrutton, director.
I'm Sarah Davis, and I play Sister Juana Inés de la Cruz.
I'm Janice, and I play Sister Sebastiana.
I'm Bill Griffiths, and I play Archbishop Aguiar y Sillas.
I'm Leah Mooney, and I play Juanita.
What drew me to the play was it's a piece of fantastic writing based on a true life person who lived hundreds of years ago.
A woman from history whose story I'd never heard of before, whose face is apparently on the 200 pesos note in Mexico, and her work survives and is taught on the Spanish curriculum today. And she was a nun and a polymath and a woman who sounded fascinating to me. So
I've never played a nun before, and I thought it would be interesting to have a go at that. I think the characters are really interesting, and the interplay between the characters and the skullduggery that goes on.
Interesting plot, the clashes between church and state, male and female, the fact that some of the language is wonderful, and it's just a brilliant story about human foibles, jealousy, ambition, all the big stuff is in there.
It's one of those eras I know an awful lot about the UK, what was going on in the UK at that time, but absolutely nothing about Mexico. I mean, even Spain, you just think Spanish Inquisition, it was all a bit ghastly and beastly, but you don't really think about Mexico and the colonies, really. So I think getting to do something in that era was really interesting. And of course, when you read it, I mean, particularly the character of Juanita is just so wild compared to everybody else, and it's makes it really fun to be the big contrast character in the play.
Sister Juana Inés de la Cruz is an incredibly intelligent woman who, as a child, just had a magnificent brain and self-taught, very, very literate. And at 15, she joined the nuns. Prior to that, she lived at court with Juanita, her slave and buddy. Intellectuals from all over Mexico have come to her for years to hear her views, and she enjoys speaking and reading and writing, and she's extraordinarily gifted. And she has a great faith. She's got a good sense of humour. But perhaps sometimes she doesn't always read the human relationships, and I think that's part of her downfall in this text.
Juanita is Sister Juana's slave, which sounds really grim, but actually isn't, because she's almost just like a friend and confidant as well as a sort of servant and someone who's been around her whole life. She's a character that's very kind of vivacious, bit naughty, bit rude, very, very bold, very energetic and full of humour and life and sort of cheekiness.
My character is one of the movers and shakers. He comes from Spain to what was called New Spain at the time, now Mexico, to shake things up within the church, and also apropos the state, the viceroy and vice-regent. He doesn't want the church to be kicked around by the state. So he's going to put his foot down on every front, really, and then he kind of shakes things up. But he is a catalyst for a lot of possible change and angst amongst the group as a whole.
It's a fascinating story about her life in Spanish colonial Mexico in the late 17th century, and her life in the convent. And as Sarah said, she was a polymath, she was a writer, and she's still very highly regarded today, both in Mexico and in the wider Spanish-speaking world. And a Spanish teacher friend of mine said that she's on the curriculum in Spain, and she's been regarded by many people in different ways. As a candidate for Catholic sainthood. She's very much herself, and it is a cracking good yarn. It is a very tough play for everybody concerned. I find, for me as a director, it tests whatever abilities and talents I have to the limit. I'm blessed with a wonderful cast and crew who know their stuff.
We've been rehearsing since January. There's been a lot of lines to learn, and I've dedicated loads of time to that, walking around the countryside with the dogs, speaking my words aloud, hoping not to come across as too nutty. Really enjoyed it. It's beautifully written. There's a lovely rhythm and cadence, and yeah, can't wait. See how audiences respond.
So I've found the rehearsal process has been very challenging at times. Finding my character, trying not to just make her a stereotypical nasty nun, just and to get the dark, the light and shade in it, because there is a lot of humour in it, as well as a lot of pathos, and it's been very, very interesting so far.
It's a very nuanced play. There's a lot going on, and it's very different levels. It can be very humorous, it can be very funny, it can be scatological, it can be a little bit cheeky, but it can also be very learned and theological. So there are lots of things going on at all different times. The actors have to cope with that and deal with all the change that happen through a number of scenes.
I think the rehearsal process has been most enjoyable and very challenging. Firstly, because it's a really wonderful text. I think it's probably her best work, but it's a very fine play with all kinds of strands to it. And it's a team job, and everybody has to fit their strand in with everybody else's for the whole thing to stand up. And there are so many interesting plot twists and characteristics amongst the characters that it holds your attention. If you're not doing your bit, you just want to sit and watch the rest of it because it's so good, and the whole team are so good. So yeah, it's just a joy to be doing it, really.
I'm playing a character who's got some of the funniest lines and some of the saddest. The play's got an awful lot of light and dark, as other people have said, but I think my character carries so much of that light and dark, the real, really outrageous humour to the real sad bits bit later on and all that. And it's been quite a sort of roller coaster to try and play it and get all that in without sort of being, if you're too much one way with the comedy, you're not quite right for the serious bits. And it's kind of really been finding a good balance for it. And as everyone else is saying as well, everyone's just been so awesome. It's so rare you do a play and everyone in the cast is so awesome. So that's a real privilege working with everyone.
I'd like the audience to leave feeling like they've just left another world, another era.
I'm hoping people will leave, obviously, having learnt more than when they came in. It's been really educational for me, learning about that period of time and a bit more about the Catholic religion.
I'd like to go the audience to leave having thoroughly enjoyed a great play, but also having looked at an examination of a lot of the drives that move human beings and did then and still do and have always done. The way that jealousy drives quite a lot of our behaviours, the way people plot and connive against each other because of ambition, the way people strike extreme religious positions, which then the fallout from which is always death and misery and pain for lots and lots of other people. Yeah, there's a lot there that you could go away with at the end.
I'd really like the audience to leave feeling like they've had an emotional roller coaster and a real experience. Like, when you get to the end of a production sometimes or a film and you just go, whoa. I want that whoa feeling for the audience, because that's what I get from reading it. And I really want people to feel that big thing that you've really experienced something that I think someone was saying earlier about, Sarah was saying about the time travel, and it's completely out of your era. But then again, it's so human and it's so relevant and real that it really hits home at the same time. So I think that combination of things is really going to send people. I think people are going to be talking about it for hours after and buying lots of drinks, hopefully.
You asked me about the size of the cast. Well, it's 15 people, 15 characters, all very talented and wonderfully written. They're all three-dimensional, and each of them has their own truth, has their own story to tell. And I think that's one of the attractions. But when you're dealing with a wonderful cast of 15 people on stage at various times during the play, it is absolutely wonder to behold. And also at the end, it's a cracking good story. So I'd like the audience to leave at the end of an evening, as they go to our very cheap bar downstairs, is to think that was a good story, well told, And interestingly, from my point of view, when I chose this play a year ago, little did I realize the change of the international status of Mexico. And also that Mexico has elected for the first time a female president. I put that down in part to Sister Juana Inés de la Cruz.